Howdy and welcome into today's show. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We're so glad that you are here. If you like today's video, if you've watched something else on the channel and you have enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell thing. I'm supposed to say that. I'm not really sure what it still means. But please subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. I would totally appreciate it. Enjoy today's show. Father Anthony and I did our New Year's Eve celebration. Hope you enjoy it. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is Father Anthony Sciarappa. Merry Christmas!
Happy New Year!
Yay! We did it, you guys. We made it to the end of 2020. How are you, buddy?
I am doing all right. We are recording later than usual, which is exciting. I just drank a double shot of espresso. I'm feeling good.
So, recording late for you means double shot of espresso.
Yeah.
Recording late for me means double shot of Jameson. Because I'm done with my day. Mm-hmm. It's later in the day. You wanted to complain about it. You were like, hey, are we really recording at 7 o'clock tonight? I mean, this is your idea. We usually record during the work day because that's when we, work. But this is our New Year's Eve party. I know this is coming out on the 30th, but we're celebrating the new year very late at night, so I think it's fitting. But yet you still wanted to complain about your idea, which is very fitting.
Incorrect. I did not want to complain. I had no interest in complaining. I was just very confused.
But you did anyway.
Yes. Because I forgot. Not forgot. I thought we were recording at the right time, but I put it in my calendar for the wrong time. So I was double checking to make sure that things were correct. I am more than happy to record at this time. Anytime I can be with you, Taylor, it's a good. It's good to me.
It's a good.
It's a good. Let's record a spicy podcast.
Ironically enough, a lot of today's podcast is going to be very what self-referential. We're going to be referencing the podcast, and we're going to be referencing our friendship. So it's a great segue into something we'll talk about not right now. Okay. Because first we have to start with something. Because you are a man who is you have been on a plenitude of podcasts. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So on your show, the Old Clerical Pod, here was my experience of what you did.
Okay.
I listened to Clerically Speaking, and I heard you yell at the beginning, "Happy New Year!" at the beginning of the show. And I listened to that episode, and I was like, okay, cool, that was fine. And then I started listening to the next week's episode, and in the exact same way, you yelled "Happy New Year" to the point that I thought one of two things happened. All of which was a mistake by a Sciarappa. I thought, one, it was either you making a mistake and recording in batches and forgetting you made the same joke, or that it was Nicholas Sciarappa making a mistake and uploading last week's podcast to this week. So no matter what I thought a Sciarappa made a mistake, and ultimately I was the one who was wrong.
Correct. It was all part of my evil plan. It was a joke building on a joke, meant to confuse people for a moment, and it sounds like that's exactly what happened, so I'm happy with it.
So you said Happy New Year 2 weeks in a row. This was a few weeks ago. So what were the two reasons you said Happy New Year 2 weeks in a row for some odd reason?
Yeah, so I said Happy New Year because it was the beginning of Advent, so it's the beginning of a new liturgical year. So I said Happy New Year. And then, a little while later, Pope Francis announced that this is going to be the year of St. Joseph. Every once in a while, the church does these themed years, and so he announced St. Joseph the day we recorded. So I was like, it's a new year. Happy New Year. We have overlapping New Years. And now I'm recording with you. Happy New Year. We have 3 New Years layered on top of each other like a delicious parfait. It's exciting.
So here's the thing. I listened to it. I thought it was a funny joke. Also, I'm super distracted because your entire mouth is blue. You look like half of a Smurf. If you're watching on YouTube, you're as distracted as I am because a light coming off of your microphone makes half of your face blue, and you look like we're having our New Year's party. I just wasn't informed that our New Year's show was a costume party, and you came as half of a Smurf and half of a priest.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, so you've got this brilliant new camera, and you look really good. As soon as I saw you and me, and it's nighttime, so my lighting is not good, I immediately bought new lighting for my office because I was so embarrassed by like my blue face and like the dark lighting, and you look so spectacular. So yes, this is distracting me as well.
Well, here's what happened. We finally got the setup to make us look like we actually do in real life. In real life, I look way better than you do. And we finally got that realism here on the show.
Good. I'm glad you think that.
So the New Year's thing. You said Happy New Year for the liturgical year. You said Happy New Year for the year of St. Joseph, which, by the way, it's the year of the dads. It's the year of, so like, are you included in that as the father with no kids, or is it just for us?
Absolutely. In fact, St. Joseph is, so priests make an ordination card. So it's a picture of like a holy image and usually a prayer on the back reminding you to pray for the priests. And I picked St. Joseph. So St. Joseph has been my dude and my model for priesthood in many ways since I've been ordained. So it's definitely my year.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I knew you were going to say yes because you're super selfish and couldn't let the lay dads have their own thing.
No, they get nothing.
So
they
we
get more responsibilities
we
than me. That's what they get.
But here's the thing, and now we're celebrating New Year. So, like, we had to start the show with you saying Happy New Year again. And here's my theory, is that everyone wants 2020 to be over so much, we had to have 3 New Years just to make sure 2020 is over.
We're kind of passively aggressively getting rid of 2020. Kind of like when it's time to go and you start holding your keys and kind of like waving them around nonchalantly. That's what we're doing in 2020. We're making sure it's like it's time to go.
Well, good. I finally understand why every show on the Zoom video you start dangling your keys about 8 minutes in, and I just have to watch you do it for the next 50 minutes just to make sure we get to the end of the show. Okay, so when it comes to New Year, it comes with a lot of looking back and a lot of looking forward. So it's like, what are we going to do? Obviously, for the New Year's resolutions, what are you going to do? That's not what we're doing today. What we're doing today is looking back. And we always want to look back on the past year. So I looked back on the past year, and I tried to find something positive, and I couldn't find anything. So I kept going further back. But I really was. I really was in this mode of, like, I had the word earlier. I did so much planning for today's show because it was so much later in the day. I've paced around for hours planning today's show, and I still don't know what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Retrospection. That's the word I was looking for. Retrospection. I've been very retrospective and looking back and trying to find things that have been good in my life. And so I was like, you know what? I like Father Anthony, and I think that he is good. So I was retrospective. I was like, one of the good things about 2020 is that you and I suffered together through 2020. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the two people that I like truly entered into the suffering of 2020 and like shared everything was my wife, you, and my best friend Jacob. And like that was like you think I'm complaining here on the show? You should hear what I say to those 3 people. But I was like, look, I really am thankful for this priest that I met on the internet. So I was being retrospective, and I was looking back, and what I did today, I never listened to my own show unless it's show content for something else that's coming up. So I went back to June 20th of 2018.
Wow.
And there was this priest that I had met on Twitter just days before we started talking about playing Fortnite, and then he came on the show. And the first person, this priest named Father Anthony Sciarappa, who at the time had a huge following on Twitter, which is why I had him on the show. Like this show has always been a leech off of other people's popularity. So I was like, this guy has a lot of followers. Let's have him on. One of the first things you said, we were doing this, like the whole shtick for you weren't a co-host yet. You were just a guest, and I was interviewing you. We were doing like this, not hot takes, but like strange takes that you had on scripture, one of which came from your very popular podcast at the time,
okay.
The Flu!
Wow. Yeah, okay.
This was like, the flu was like a hot thing.
Mm-hmm.
Clerically speaking, was just a glimmer in your eye.
Just so people know, The Flu was a short-lived 2-episode podcast where all I did was read my own tweets out loud and declare myself king of Twitter. It was mildly self-indulgent.
Well, so is this show, which is what I already told you. We're being very self-reflective today. But literally one of the first things you ever said on this show. Are you ready for this?
I don't think I am, but
I
go
don't
ahead
think
anyway.
you are either. Because I really want to see if you stand by these takes.
Yeah.
But you are currently proving that you don't stand by literally the first take you ever had on this show.
Okay.
June 20th of 2018 on episode 88, you said, because Jesus had long hair and never wore it in a bun, no Christian should ever put his hair in a man bun.
Yeah, it's true. And my hair currently, as we're recording, is in a bun right now. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That was something I very strongly stood by. I had the idea of growing out my hair. I thought to myself, what's the point of growing out long hair? But then I realized it's a big hassle, and it also gets really hot because my hair is growing out while it's still warm. And as soon as I put my hair up, I was like, oh, this is much better. And yes, I've received harassment from family, friends, all of which have reminded me of this take, because this is something I've been saying since seminary. So yes, I no longer stand by it. I have given in to the man bun.
So for the last 2.5 years, this was 2.5 years ago, your first appearance on the show. In the last 2.5 years, you have changed this take quite obviously. I knew the first one was going to be a hit right when you popped into the Zoom video tonight and you had the man bun on, I was like, "Thank you, Jesus." This is amazing. But you obviously changed this take, and what you just told me is that you changed your Christian take based out of laziness and convenience. Is that true?
Yes.
Do you think that you have changed more of your Christian life based off of convenience and laziness in the last 2.5 years?
I mean,
is this indicative of the rest of your life?
Convenience and laziness has not necessarily changed my takes, but the way I try to live out my Christian life. So this is like pure hypocrisy. In my normal life, it's more failing to live up to my standards, which are the standards of the gospel. So slightly different, but I mean, not super different. So yes, there is an analogy there somewhere.
Yeah, for 100%. And I was hoping you would go further into your personal life, and you didn't. And I think it's probably best for both of us.
I think that was good enough. Good enough.
I mean, and I relate with you here. Laziness is my second strengths on the Strength Finder test, if you know this. But you started talking about, like, you perfectly segued into your next take. You were talking about it was this tweet that you had about, it's kind of poking fun at Protestants that were poking fun at the Pope. Long story short, but essentially you directly quoted on the show that you said, if you can't make fun of your brothers, then they're not your brothers. You were talking about how Protestants are our brothers and sisters in faith. And in, like, all of my friendships, except for like one or two, because they have told me, "Dear God, Taylor, please stop." Like, I make fun of everyone. I literally make fun of everyone, and but not everyone. I make fun of everyone that I'm close to and care about.
Yes,
like brothers, right? Brothers and sisters. Like, and I have gotten myself in trouble a few times for making fun of people. But with the thing with brothers is you can make fun of them, and yet you're still brothers, and you'll come out just fine, if not stronger, and have a deeper relationship, right? I mean, you and I's friendship has been based off of making fun of each other. Mm-hmm. We have a few times where I have made fun of you, and you have struck back like a cobra, ready to strike. and we've only gotten closer because of it. Yeah. So here's kind of my question. Yeah. This is how I talk to all of my really good friends. Mm-hmm. And growing up, that's how all my friends and I all got closer. And we were still able to have serious conversations, but that's how we talk to each other. Yeah. Now, some of my relationships grow closer that way, and some of them have grown further apart. Yeah. So I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do. You know me very well. Mm-hmm. You know my humor. You know how I poke fun at people. You know how people poke fun at me. Yeah. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with all of that information. I do the same action, and it has good outcomes and it has bad outcomes. So what am I supposed to do with my cutting wit?
Yeah, it depends on the person. So first of all, like, there are people who I'm very close to. We'll tease each other, but I know where to tease and where not to tease, right? There's certain things, because I've shared different vulnerabilities and personality types. Not everyone can do that kind of humor with each other. For me, like for you, growing up, I wouldn't have like realized it at the time, but like if I can make fun of someone and their vulnerabilities, they can make fun of mine. It's kind of a weird form of intimacy in a sort of way, and it just clicks for me. But I have learned over the course of time that you have to make sure to say like real, genuine things every once in a while, especially as you're in the beginning stages of the relationship, but all throughout, because that kind of teasing, it can become too much, and especially if it hits you on a bad day or something. So I think it's important to make sure you have like real, genuine conversations and genuine compliments. The other day, I was in my sacristy, and two music ministers came up to me, and they said something about that they're going to be singing for all my Christmas masses. And I was like, oh, I can't wait, and then just kind of teasing them. And the one's like, actually, I won't be at one of your masses. I'm like, oh, Merry Christmas to me. And we all laughed and everything. Like, no big deal. But after Mass, I made sure to come up to them like, you have a beautiful voice. Whenever I see you two as a duo for Mass, I'm relieved because I know you're going to do a great job. And just thank you very much. So, like, every once in a while, I have to make sure, like, you are, not teasing them. So it's that. You have to know the person you're talking to because it's not everyone's love language. Teasing is not everyone's love language. And then even if it is, I think it's important to say real, genuine things without coding it in humor or something else. I think that's how you balance that. And sometimes you mess up, and then you apologize.
I like you a lot.
Yeah.
I like you a lot.
I like you a
Did
lot
you know
too, Taylor.
this? No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And here's the thing. I was going to talk for another 20 minutes and then compliment you, but if I didn't compliment you there, everyone would be mad at me.
Yeah. And I will say this, we talk at least like once a week, and you've become one of my very close friends over the year. There's not everyone do I call up and talk to my problems with, and you're one of those people. You're in that circle, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's been a great thing this year.
People who have been listening this year know that I was the first person it's because I called you, but you answered.
Yeah.
You had literally just crashed into a ditch, and we had a phone conversation. I was like, why are you talking to me? And you're like, I don't know. I just needed somebody to talk to.
I'm in shock. I crashed into a ditch.
And just like I mentioned on the show 2 weeks ago that I settled for you in my whole Xbox debacle, you settled for me in the ditch. And that's our friendship. We're just keep settling for each other because we can't find anything better. And one day we'll realize we can't find anything better.
Yes, very true.
Here's one thing that I noticed about me on that day and how things have changed. I don't know if it was because I was nervous. I don't think I was nervous, but I just kind of I think I used to get in my head a little bit more on the show. I literally didn't even recognize that I said this. But at the end of the interview segment, which historically has always been the second segment, I was like, all right, Father Anthony, thanks for being here. Don't go anywhere, anybody. Our final show. What did I say? Wait, what did I say? We'll be back for the final episode of the day in just a minute. Like the final episode of the day? Like, yes, this is the only episode of the day. I meant segment, and I didn't say that.
Yeah.
And I didn't fix it. So I don't know what that says about me 2.5 years ago. But so that was in June. On November 14th, we have another momentous day.
Okay.
This was we took the next step in our budding relationship.
All right.
And you became a co-host of the show.
Yeah.
And you started co-hosting. We started that episode off by saying that my former co-host, my only co-host from the beginning, and if you haven't listened for forever, 4 years ago the show started with just me, and it was really boring because it was just me. And then slowly and surely, my producer became kind of my first quasi co-host, and then she left unexpectedly. So I came on the show on November 14th, 2008, and I said that producer Sam had moved on, that she had like she had died, but she did not die. And then I introduced you.
She's gone to a better place.
She's gone to a better place. That's exactly what I said. I didn't take good notes. I said she's in a better place away from me. So you came in and I introduced you as replacing the passed away producer Sam, and I introduced you also as my second favorite priest.
Yeah.
So if you remember, 2 years ago, 2 years and a month, what is different between right now and the conversation we're having and the first time you were my co-host after we had known each other for 5 months?
Oh, I'm much more comfortable. I think we had a conversation about this. I was very intimidated being on your show. Even though I had my own podcast, we were still just starting off, And both me and my co-host, we have no idea what we're doing. So it was kind of like low pressure. And we didn't have any stakes. So like for you, like you were on the radio, you have show prep, you have things planned, you had like, segments and timing and things. I was like, man, I don't want to mess up his podcast. So at first I was very nervous. And it was a different role because, you're more, we were co-hosts, but you run the show. So I was adjusting to all of that. And then finally, over the course of time, I was like, well, this is my friend Taylor. We're just going to talk. And so I think that's been the biggest change. I'm just much more comfortable doing the show with you.
So when you came in with the idea that you didn't want to mess up the show,
Mm-hmm.
when did that stop?
I never want to mess up the show, but sometimes what is a good idea to me is not the same as a good idea to Taylor. For
Correct.
example, the excellent way I introduced your show a couple of weeks ago, which I still think was great and hilarious, but, agree to disagree.
It was tremendous content in the fact that it was terrible. Like it was real bad. It was
See,
real bad.
I unironically believe it was great, so that's where we differ creatively.
It's not creative differences here. One of us is absolutely correct.
Opinions, subjectivity. Who can really say?
People who have creative differences are like directors of movie studios and like the best directors in the world. They part for creative differences. For people who have been doing radio for 10 years and someone who just started, it's not creative differences.
Yeah, but you gotta go to the little bar for Catholic media, don't you? I feel like I think I can cross the bar. I don't know.
Everybody's making fun of me for doing Catholic media here recently.
Yes.
And it makes me mad.
Oh, sorry.
Simply because I know that I'm tremendous at this. So the other thing that has changed for me is very quickly, like it was like we were just like in the talking stage, and then we started dating when you became a co-host, and like when you're dating, sometimes the girl you're dating could be your second favorite girl, and then you date her for a little longer, then she becomes your first favorite girl. So that's just what happened with you.
Okay.
Is you were my second favorite priest, and very quickly you became my favorite priest.
Yes.
And I mean, let's be honest, that bar isn't too high.
No.
But you passed it.
Yeah, going from like a priest you tolerate to the priest you kind of like. I mean, that's an attainable jump for me.
Well, you did it.
Yay!
Attainable jump for a white male.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that we did on that first show when you first co-hosted was I was telling a story about a group of kids that I had gone on a retreat with. And I told them to make a 5x5 square out of pieces of paper. And I'd said that I handed them a ream of paper. And you had no idea what a ream was. And that made me laugh today because I forgot that happened. And I was like, how does a grown man in 10 years after The Office launched not know what a ream of paper is? You thought it was like a roll of paper. And I guess I get this coming from a priest.
Yeah.
Like, if you everybody knows that in like the religious education CCE building, there are like 18,000-pound rolls of paper for the children to use to draw pictures of Jesus to get into heaven or whatever they're doing in CCE, and that's what you thought a ream was. And
I still think that's what a ream is. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as you said ream of paper, I'm like, rolls of paper?
You still haven't learned. That's another common thing.
So wait, a ream
is
of
that
paper.
you are often wrong and I am often right, and you never learn when I correct you.
I refuse to learn. So like a ream of paper is a box of paper? Is that what you're saying?
It's just like the paper you buy for like printers.
Like a stack of paper.
A stack of paper that is wrapped in another piece of paper.
That's just a box of paper or a stack of paper.
It's called sushi because it's raw and wrapped in itself. And like minutes later in the following segment, we used to do a segment called Mass Text. Do you remember this segment?
You have to remind me.
And it was just like literally just looking at the readings from a day around the day we were recording.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it was like super lazy. And I was like, what is going on? I need more content. Let's do the Sunday Mass readings because that had never been done before.
Right. Yes. Very original.
But what happened that was very original was the reading that we were doing, like from the previous Sunday, was the scribes and the Pharisees coming to talk to Jesus and ask him some question. I didn't actually listen to the content because I fixated on what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Because you started explaining this parable or this story from the gospel that you had preached on just days earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And you said the scribes and the Pharisees did such and such. And this was early on in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I, like, for radio clarity and to slightly poke fun at you, I was like, you said heresies. Like, I think you had a Freudian slip because you probably think that the Pharisees are heretics. And you doubled down and said, no, I said Pharisees.
Yeah.
And I looked at the other person in the studio. This is when I was back recording at Red Sea Radio Studio. I wasn't in the water closet like I am now. We weren't on video. I looked at the other guy while you're still talking, and we're both looking at each other like, he said heresies. And I again interrupted you and told you said heresies, and I think that's hilarious, and I want to address that.
Yeah.
And you said, no, listen back. I said Pharisees. And I listened again today. You want to know what you said? Heresies, 100%. You said the scribes and the heresies.
Well, if your follow-up question is, am I less prideful? The answer is no. That has not changed.
Yeah, so, like, I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm thinking, like, we talked about the brothers and making fun of each other, and, like, that's, for me, that's kind of testing the waters. I tested the waters. I made fun of you. Mm-hmm. You doubled down and said you were right, which I thought would just be fun radio. And then we just grew and started making fun of each other again. So the last thing that we did on that last show was I asked you to explain things simply. Like, we were talking about evangelization and how so often Catholics are like, and then the transubstantiation happened because at the transfiguration, Jesus became an angel of the Lord. It was very bright. It's like, what are you talking about? You know, like, that's not evangelization. That's like deep catechesis. That was a heresy because I just mashed a bunch of stories.
Yeah. That's very Pharisee of you.
But I asked you to explain Pittsburgh in a sentence. I asked you to explain hockey, Catholicism, a sacrament. You struggled with sacrament. You were your first year as a priest. You couldn't define it. That was a whole thing 2.5 years ago. It was really fun going back and listening to this. But I want you to describe two things simply, just like we did on the first show of you being a co-host.
Okay.
One, this show. Like, this show in general. How do you simply explain this show to someone who had never heard of it?
Okay. Forte. Oh, you know what? Because it's kind of changed a little bit now. I would say Forte Catholic is a show of friends talking about Catholicism in a fun and engaging manner.
Good. That's fine. I mean, it's not the greatest thing I've ever heard, but it's
a
fair
like, but I mean,
description.
that's the heart of the show. It's like you and your co-host, and it's not just Catholicism. It's like the world, but like the whole world is. I mean, that's what it's kind of become. It's like you've got these different personalities, and you're a very different personality, and talking about the world, our lives, and making it relatable and fun. I mean, that's what it is.
So how has that changed since 2.5 years ago?
Well, it would be like the same content, but it was less personalities because it was just you and Sam when I started. And it was good. It was great because Sam is the perfect foil to you. But like the show feels different with the rotating co-host and everything. So that's what.
Yeah, I think y'all have brought about less Jesus. I think I used to talk about Jesus more.
I mean, maybe.
I was listening back and I was like, man, that was a really good, like, poignant point. Mm-hmm. And I think when I first started the show, I was still like the primary thing I had done was youth ministry, and I was such in like youth minister mode that the show, like, I still have all of those things like in my back pocket. But I think this is more of I'm coming at it as more of a, like, I used to be 75% youth minister, 25% podcaster, and now it's like 80% podcaster, 10% youth minister, 10% heathen.
Yes. If you want to talk about Jesus, just have Allison on. That's your co-host for that subject.
Right. I also have one other thing to argue with your description. You said friends talking about faith. And I think there's only one caveat, and those are the weeks that Liv is on. Talk about foil to Taylor.
Friends and enemies talk about. Yeah.
So one more simple explanation. our friendship after 2.5 years?
That's a good question. Sorry, I don't want to do the radio science. I'm thinking. I got to vamp as I think. I would say our friendship is, we are friends beyond our a friendship that goes beyond our public faces. Like, so you're Taylor Schroll, speaker, musician, podcast host. I am Father Anthony, priest, podcast host, whatever. But what I like about our friendship is that it's Taylor and Anthony who are friends, and there's something very important and refreshing about that, and that's what I enjoy. Not everyone gets to call me Anthony, but you're one of the people. That's a special circle, and that's one of the things I really value in our friendship. So it's like, just beyond the public face of what we do all the time.
We have a hidden life.
We have a hidden life where we're regular people who play video games.
What's funny is I can call you Anthony, but I still can't call you Padre. That's still off
Yeah, I
limits.
don't like that.
Like literally all of this to say, as I was looking back at 2020, you were a big part that got me through it, and then it was just fun to look back and see the beginnings of our friendship. And I am thankful for you. And I literally planned on being nice to you today. It wasn't just because you said that I needed to compliment you suddenly 12 minutes ago.
Well, thanks. It was very nice. I hope we drop all this for the next segment, but yeah, it was good for one.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just be vicious for the next segment. So to close out this segment, that was the length of 2 segments. We have to end how we ended that show. I asked you how it went, how that first show of you being a co-host went, and you said it was thoroughly okay. So I hope that this segment was more than thoroughly okay. And just an update for all of you listening on the podcast, especially Apple Podcasts. Big update to the show is you can now see our faces when you search Forte Catholic in your Apple Podcasts, which makes us the most special of podcasts because, like, big podcasts like Conan O'Brien have that. And also Forte Catholic. So subscribe wherever you listen. And don't worry, we'll be right back for our second and possibly final segment. We'll figure it out. Don't go anywhere. Hey there. Didn't get what you want for Christmas? Well, we all know that all you all wanted under the tree was Forte Catholic merchandise. We've got t-shirts, we've got hats over at fortecatholic.com/store. Go get them now. You can wear my face on your belly. Or hat. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. Father Anthony, I think you're a terrible person and I want you to leave.
Yeah!
So we were talking in the last segment, just looking back on our friendship, and I was thinking a lot about how, like you were saying with the show, like the show is where our regular everyday life collides with our faith, because hopefully our faith and our everyday life collide. And a lot of that for me can be funny. Like I find a lot of places where faith and regular life lie to just like come together, and sometimes they clash, and the clash is where it's funny.
Yes.
So context, you and I were living our very private lives that no one else sees, playing video games.
People could take clips of that and get me into trouble.
Right. That's why I'm saying it the way I'm saying it. I've been doing this a long time. So you and I were playing video games, and this is just how my brain works. You were talking to somebody else, and I just start laughing on my own because we had just been talking about this event that I did at a parish that I used to work at. It was essentially an XLT event I did a few weeks ago. I mentioned it on last week's show. So it's your typical, like, I got up, welcomed everybody there, gave a talk about hope, played music while Jesus was there. You know, the whole Eucharistic adoration thing. We did a free offering collection because Catholic mission, and then we left. And one thing that happens a lot that happens every time you do Eucharistic adoration is if you and I did adoration together, essentially we would talk before, and like I always do, like if the priest has special requests or a special way that he likes to do things, like I know how to do it properly, but there are always like priest flavors that they want.
Just so you know, I'm such a good priest. Whenever I do them, I ask the musicians, "What's your plan?" Just so you know. I care about
What
these
you
people.
ask, what's your plan? And then they answer, and you're like, that's terrible. We're ripping it to shreds.
Yeah, okay, that's the second part, but at least I ask,
Yeah. So I go up and essentially what it always boils down to is the priest really, like most priests that I work with, they want to be helpful for the night, to help the night go smoothly. And they brought me in knowing that I've done this 198,000 times, right? Like I've done this over and over and over again. So essentially my signal would be to you. Essentially I'd be like, hey, when I'm done with the talk, I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to start picking on my guitar while I'm praying. That's your signal to like go get ready. And then when I start playing the first song, sometime during that first song, it doesn't matter when, go get Jesus out of his little house in the tabernacle and place him in the monstrance on the altar. And then you do the kneeling if you want to do incense, do your incense, like whatever you want to do at that point. Yeah. And then typically the priest goes and sits down because we're going to have a time of prayer, and I'll play music, and then it'll be silence, and I'll play music and it'll be silence. So the priest needs a signal to know when that portion is over, and the priest needs to do priest things again.
Yes.
And that is which song?
That's Tantum Ergo.
Correct. So when I start playing the very recognizable Tantum Ergo, that's when the priest comes up. It's this ancient, beautiful hymn that was written by the person who is very involved with your show, Thomas Aquinas.
Yes, Thomas Aquinas. Big fan of our show, actually. Yeah.
This is our second segment, also known as the Summa Theologica.
Yes.
So I start playing that, and so it was just in my head, and you and I were talking about that event, and then then you start talking to somebody at the house wherever you were, and then my daughter walks in, and she's singing children's songs. So all of a sudden, the Tantum is in my head, and children's songs are in my head. And immediately I start busting out laughing because I sang something to myself and realized how perfectly it worked, and I would like to reveal it to the world now. And how we're going to do that is we're going to sing a duet.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
I think so.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H.
I, J, K, L, M, N, O.
P, Q, R, S, T, U, V.
W, X, Y, and Z.
Now I know my ABCs.
Next time, won't you sing with me?
Amen. That's how my brain works. Like my daughter walked in singing children's songs, so that got mashed up with this Tantum Ergo that we had just been talking about, and that's what came out of my brain, and I thought it was funny. Is it funny, or am I going to get in trouble for this?
Is it funny? So when you said that, my first thought was no, it doesn't. Then I'm playing video games. I'm thinking A, B, C, D, E, F. Oh, it does! It does!
It's so perfect. Like, it's too perfect for me to not share.
Yeah.
So there are often times where comedy and our faith come together, and I hope a lot of those times are here on this show.
Yes.
But sometimes when comedy and faith come together, it can go into this realm called sacrilegious. And sacrilegious is not a term I don't really understand it, because every time I hear something like the Tantum Ergo and the ABCs, and when it fits perfectly together, we did not have to force that to make it work. It literally
God
worked
did that.
the first. God did that. It was literally the first time I ever thought about it. We sang it one time, and it was perfect. So the whole sacrilegious thing, like making fun of things about faith. And also, like we talked about the brothers thing earlier, like you can make fun of someone or something that you love and still love it. So how can I do that without being sacrilegious?
Yeah, so I think, sacrilegious is in some way desecrating or not respecting the sacrament. So you and I talking on your show about this fun thing, that's fine. Now, next time, if you're in adoration and you're leading an XLT and you start singing the ABCs to Jesus, then you're in trouble, right? Because that's supposed to be one of those intimate, genuine moments.
Right.
That's not a time where you joke, okay? Now, if you're praying quietly to yourself and you make a little private joke with you and Jesus about the ABCs, that's fine. But if you were to actually do it publicly as part of the little liturgy there, that's where you cross the line. So a time and place for everything.
So you want to hear a little secret about Catholic musicians?
Yeah.
In our heads, we have ruined every song. Or every song has been ruined for us.
Right.
So our job, literally my job on Sunday mornings, yeah, sure, it's to help people enter deeply into prayer or have an experience with Jesus or uplift the liturgy or assist the liturgy. Like, yeah, sure, that can all be my job. My primary job is just to keep it together.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how often that is the priest's primary job as well. So I can empathize with that very strongly.
So speaking of comedy and faith, and here we are on our New Year's Eve show. And there were a couple of things that I saw recently that, and we're still in the Christmas season, that I wanted to share. And these are memes. So people who are always online saw these a week ago. But for the rest of you who aren't, I saw that there were some old jokes that I've seen that are like classics that I think are hilarious, but there was a couple of new ones. This was the new one, and it's a beautiful old painting of like the wise men, at Epiphany, like when the wise men show up. Newsflash, they weren't there on December 25th, but there's Mary and Joseph, this beautiful painting, and one of the wise men, who's very bald in this picture, which I like, he says, "Just to be perfectly clear, these gifts are for your birthday and Christmas."
Yeah, that's good. I like that one.
So I just want to give a shout out to all those who have birthdays around Christmas time, because Jesus is way more important than you, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with that fact.
Yeah. Sorry you get overshadowed by Jesus.
Yeah, that's always rough. The next one, sticking with the wise men theme, you might have seen this one. It got pretty popular on social media about a week ago, but it was the wise men if they were actually helpful. So the three gifts that they brought were diapers, formula, and casseroles.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny. And here's the thing: I think I was griping to you or somebody playing video games the other day. Is like we're not going to get into the whole like gold, frankincense, and myrrh thing, because we've talked about that every other Christmas. Go back 52 episodes ago and listen to that. But gold because he's a king and you get money or whatever. Frankincense because it smells good, and the myrrh because like that's what they like buried people with, right? And it was symbolizing his birth. Which, first of all, like we've talked before, that's super depressing. Like, why are you giving a baby something here? This will come in handy when he gets killed. But also, it's just not practical. Do you really think Mary kept that around for 33 years sentimentally? And whenever her child died and she was in like all this remorse of like 9 swords piercing her heart, do you think she was like, oh, let's go get that myrrh that nice man gave us 33 years ago?
I can't. The way you frame that makes it very difficult to argue with. But
it's unarguable. All of my points are ineffable.
Yes, I guess whatever. Fine.
Then the last one, the animals at the stables.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I will bear him gifts. I will carry him. This is like, the sheep says, I will quench his thirst, and the dove, I will bless his baptism. The sheep, I will harm him. I don't understand that one. Something else, I will feed him. And then the last one, the pig. I will let him fill me with demons, then I'll jump off a cliff and wait, what? And I've never identified more with a character in a picture than this pig, because that is my relationship with Jesus.
That's amazing. In seminary, we have a joke. So at the beginning of Mass, there's a penitential.
Oh, it's a seminary joke? We have to move on. This is the end of the segment. I'm just kidding. Say your joke.
Yeah. So like you've got Lord Jesus, you came to call the contrite of heart. Lord have mercy. I'm messing it up. But we would do our own versions. So Lord Jesus, you cursed the fig tree and it died. Lord have mercy. Lord Jesus, you put the pig farmer out of business. Christ have mercy. Like all these like things out of context. Like, why do you do that? Yeah.
Imagine doing that.
Lord Jesus, you called your best friend. Yeah. Lord Jesus, you called your best friend Satan. Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy. But he had to say it like Southern, like, Lord have mercy. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got to close this out because I can't. So you reiterate your point. Yes, comedy and faith can mix together. We've had comedians on the show. Mm-hmm. Actually, one of your first shows, right after Christmas, we had a comedian on. I love comedy and I love our faith, and the two can combine. But ultimately, we have to keep ourselves out of trouble when doing so by...
Yeah, there's a time and place for everything. So there's those moments to be genuine, and there's moments to joke. And the joke should be celebrating our faith, not denigrating it. So like when we realize that this is kind of fun and crazy and good, then that's a good joke. But you probably don't want to do that in the liturgy. You want to do that when you're hanging out with your friends or on a podcast.
On a podcast, 100%. Like whenever they say, don't make fun of men of the cloth, and I'm like, Father Anthony has a man bun and looks like a fake priest. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Not only are there full-length shows of this show that you are currently listening to on YouTube, but there's also other stuff too. Like me giving talks, the whole thing I used to do about traveling around the country, talking about the Jesus. You can now see that on your little phone or your TV or literally anything with internet. Heck, some of you might have gotten a new fridge where you can watch YouTube on your fridge. Watch me talk about Jesus on your fridge. YouTube.com/Forte Catholic. Subscribe today. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That is still Father Anthony Sciarappa. And so, looking back, the first Christmas show we ever did, you and I did the episode where we recorded before Christmas, but it released after Christmas. What did I do to you on that episode?
You were acting like this was a live Christmas show, and so you asked me what I preached about, which, of course, I had not...
At Christmas Mass, yes.
Yes, at Christmas Mass. And I, of course, this is like a week before Christmas, I had not written my Christmas homily. So I began to talk about the homily I did not do. And you let me go for a little while before you're like, you're a liar and a bad priest. And I was flabbergasted. I was duped. I didn't know what to do.
You were trying to do good radio, and
Yeah.
instead I was duping you. And it's honestly one of my favorite things that I've ever done on this show. And about a year, that was like 2 years ago, about a year ago, maybe 9 months ago, we started a segment on this show called Freestyle Preaching, where we had to just come up with like homilies or talks, on the spot, and we had to give each other a few words. And it was like, what do they call it? The proto-evangelium, like the evangelization before evangelization. Like
Sure.
Your homily that you made up before Christmas that aired after Christmas when I tricked you was actually the proto-evangelium of this segment.
Yeah.
Called Freestyle Preaching, where myself and my co-hosts test each other, and we give each other 3 words, and we try to weave them in to about a 60-second talk. A little message, kind of daily mass sermon, or like a little brief little talk that a youth minister would give, that sort of thing. So I made you do that live on the air as a joke the first time. And we did this when all the co-hosts got together. The fun show we did, episode 200, where all the co-hosts got together for the first time. That was a blast. John Blevins absolutely blew you guys out of the water.
Yeah, it was
he
embarrassing.
was very good at it. But we're going to test your skills again. John's not here to make you look dumb. It's just me here to
Just
make you
you.
look dumb.
I think that'll be enough, but here we go.
It usually is. But I'm going to give you the option. Would you like to go first preaching, or would you like me to go first preaching?
I want to go first to get it over with.
Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 words. And here's what I expect. We're pulling back the curtain again. Last time, I made you preach your Christmas homily early.
Yeah.
This time, I'm giving you content for your Christmas homily early. So not only do you have to weave these 3 words into this episode, you have to weave these 3 words into your homily on Christmas morning and send me proof that you did so. It doesn't have to be the same words you say right now, but you do have to meditate on these 3 words and include them in your homily.
I can only promise to try.
No, you have to promise right now that you will do it.
No, that's not how this works.
Sure it is. You're not getting paid this month.
Dang.
Peppermint, stable, donkey. Be careful with that last one.
Yeah. Okay. Peppermint, stable, donkey. All right.
It might sound like his internet cut out, just his brain.
Okay, I'm ready.
Go.
So there are a lot of different flavors we think about on Christmas. Some people are still carrying over pumpkin spice. Some people really like ginger for gingerbread. Shut up, I'm working on this. But I think one of the most underrated flavors is mint, because it's a kind of a shocking flavor. It's a flavor that wakes you up, that is unexpected. And what happens at Christ's birth is unexpected. Christ's life is something that should shock us, because while every other person was born to live, Jesus Christ was born to die for us. And he's the king, and a king who does not go into Jerusalem on a horse from a stable, but rides in on a donkey. He is the humble king who was born to die for us. Everything about Christ's life must both shock us, but also bring us joy, because he has done all this out of his great love for us.
Time! You didn't use stable. What was your second word?
I did. I said he didn't ride on a horse coming out of a stable.
Oh,
I think I said that.
I don't think you did. Maybe you did. Here's what I got fixated on. Here's why. Yeah. Maybe you said it and I didn't hear it.
I hate the way I started that. That's like the worst way to start a homily, and it drove me crazy, but I didn't know what to do in a minute. I never start with like really kitschy stuff like that.
I didn't hate how you started. I hated the whole middle and end. And this is why. You were making really good points, but all I could think about was literally I just pictured the little kids coming to Mass on Christmas morning. And you said that little baby Jesus was going to die at least 3 times. And all I could think about is how we all felt when we realized at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, spoiler warning if you haven't seen it, when we all realized that Kylo Ren killed Grogu. So, hey, this little baby that you love, he's going to die. And that's all I could think about was... you kept bringing up Jesus' death too many times on Christmas morning when we're celebrating this little baby.
Yeah. That's part speaking off the cuff, but I will say I will be tying in Jesus' birth and his cross in my homily. I'll probably do it in a more subtle way for the kids.
Don't say death 3 times.
I won't say Jesus dies 3 times for all the little kids. I'll say that for the midnight mass when there's no kids.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, we've got just a few minutes left. Please give me my 3 words, please.
Okay, Mary, Christmas tree, and presents. That should be easy enough.
I've got a great one. I've got a great one for the last one. I don't know how the first 2 are going to go, but I've got a great one for the last one. Merry Christmas. That's not the Mary you meant, but Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. And I know that a lot of you are very focused about the presents on the tree today. Like, aren't you kids? Aren't you glad I'm not saying death 3 times? Kids, aren't you really excited about the presents under the tree? And the presents are really exciting, and we all get great things. Like, I just got the new Xbox, so take that, small children that wanted one. But really, this season isn't about the presents we get. It's about the presence of Christ in our hearts, because he came to be with us, to be in our hearts, and we are still waiting for him to come again, but boy, are we glad that we can celebrate him today. So I just wish all of you a very Merry Christmas from my parish to yours. God bless you all.
Whoa, 42 seconds. It made much more coherent sense than mine.
I used both versions of Mary and both versions of presents.
Yeah, I know. That was good. The presents one. I was like, oh, look at this guy.
You can use that as one of your words in your homily if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little cliche, but we'll see if I'll use it.
Well, I stole it from a bishop, so you're making fun of a bishop now, and I did.
I have no problem saying any clergy member can be cliche in their homilies. This shocks nobody who's ever listened to more than one homily.
Exactly. Well, from all of us here at Forte Catholic, from myself, from Father Anthony, from the rest of the team, we do wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. Yes, you're listening to this a few days after, but it's still the Christmas season. We're still celebrating. Please stay safe over New Year's Eve. Don't drink too much, and maybe I'm talking to the listeners, maybe I'm talking to other people, but, whatever. So, thank you guys so much for listening this year. It's been a crazy year. We've hopefully had some good times on this show. I've complained a lot. I've yelled a lot. But I'm really thankful for all of you that listen. And ultimately, I'm thankful for this man bun priest sitting across from me. Father Anthony, I think you're more than just okay.
Thank you. I think you are more than just okay as well, Taylor.
Love you.
Merry Christmas. Love you too.
I'll be back next week. Say it. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Here's what you need to do. You need to imagine that you have a friend, and that friend is Catholic or Christian, or they like joy. Do you have any friends like that? Well, there's a share button right here on your little podcast, your little YouTube app, whatever you're watching on. Hit that share button. Text it to them. Share it with them on social media, whatever. Share the joy of this show. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Santa Claus.